On December 23, 1948, the chief architect of Japan's war of aggression in Asia met his end. Hideki Tojo, the prime minister whose actions and policies significantly expanded the scope and the brutality of the Second World War in Asia, was executed by hanging. The International Military Tribunal for the Far East found him guilty on multiple counts. Of the 55 charges against Japan's leaders, 54 bore Tojo's name. He became the face of Japanese militarism, responsible for a full-scale and expanded aggression against China, the attack on Pearl Harbor, and the invasion of Southeast Asia and the immense suffering across the Asian continent. Riding through the ranks of an imperialist army, Hideki Tojo embraced the philosophy of expansion by force, a belief that plunged Asia into darkness. Tojo is known as the Razor General, started serving as the Prime Minister of Japan from October 1941. As a central architect of the aggression war against China, policies under his oversight led to atrocities such as the 3-All policy, a scorched earth campaign of killing, burning, and looting. He was directly involved in authorizing biological warfare programs, including the notorious Unit 731, where human experimentation was carried out on living prisoners. His responsibility extended far beyond Asia. Tojo knew of and sanctioned the brutal treatment of prisoners of war. Events like the Bataan Death March, along with first-hand accounts from forced labor camps across the region, became enduring symbols of that cruelty. Under his leadership, tens of thousands Allied POWs and millions of Asian civilians perished. And his downfall was as dramatic as his rise. In July 1944, after the US forces defeated Japan in the Battle of Saipan and brought the war to Japan's doorstep, he was forced to resign. His removal, orchestrated by rebel elites, was a desperate attempt by the very system he embodied to evade responsibility for the impending defeat. His insistence on continuing a hopeless war epitomized the fanaticism of Japanese militarism. After Japan's surrender, he was tried, convicted, and executed as a Class A war criminal. Historians sometimes refer to Tojo as the Hitler of Japan. Like Hitler, he fronted a regime built on conquest, extreme nationalism, and the belief in racial destiny. Both were convicted as supreme war criminals. The difference is that Tojo was not only a lone dictator, he was also a servant of a larger system. Japan's militarist elite and the state ideology centered on the divine emperor. At his trial, Tojo defended Japan's actions as legitimate self-defense, a claim the judges completely rejected. The trial was meant to be a permanent lesson that militarism leads only to ruin and judgment. But has that lesson truly been learned? Decades later, the symbols and the mindset of the dark era persist. Quite a number of Japanese prime ministers and senior officials have paid respects at the Yasukuni Shrine, where Tojo and other Class A war criminals are enshrined. For the victims of Japan's wartime aggression, these visits are undoubtedly fresh injury. More recently, hardline rhetoric has resurfaced among influential political figures. Now, under Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, we see dangerous steps back. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi has made provocative statements about Japan's role in the Taiwan Strait, remarks widely seen as challenging the foundation of the post-war pacifist order. And that is not an isolated incident. Prime Minister Takaichi has long been a vocal figure in Japan's right-wing political movement. Her consistent visit to the Yasukuni Shrine before taking office and her active advocacy for constitutional revision and defense expansion are seen by many as a direct effort to whitewash history and revive the specter of militarism. She represents a political force that seeks to dismantle the post-war pacifist framework, echoing the dangerous ideologies of the past. The shadow of Hideki Tojo is long. His crimes are recalled not to reopen old wounds, but to guard against their repetition. Vigilance, history reminds us, is the price of a peace. Years ago, during a visit to Berlin, I was struck by how deliberately Germany ensured there would be no barrier set for Adolf Hitler, no place that could become a shrine, no ground for glorification. But when I look at the recent developments in Japan, I can't help but feel uneasy. Never again must be more than a slogan. It must remain a promise backed by memory, accountability, and restraint. And until that promise is fully honored, the past will continue to be remembered, its horror recalled, and responsibility firmly insisted upon.